hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are listening. Welcome back. This is Keeping It Real Estate with me, your host, Sara Delansig. And today we are diving into a topic that hits every single one of us at some point in the journey of our real estate career, and that is fear. Okay. So maybe it's fear of being seen or the fear of failing publicly, the fear of putting yourself out there and hearing crickets, or the fear of rejection. Does any of this sound familiar to you guys? It sounds familiar to me, especially mine was actually, which I've shared many, many times, is actually the fear of growth, which we will get into. But here's the thing. Fear is a part of the path to becoming who you're meant to be as an agent. In fact, fear might be the sign that you're headed in exactly the right direction. So, today I want to talk you through how fear shows up and how to recognize it for what it is, how to turn it into fuel. So, let's go from fearful to fierce together today. So, part one, fear isn't your enemy. Okay. It's actually a signal. So, fear isn't proof that you're not cut out for this. Is proof that you care, right? Being indifferent is way worse than being worried or concerned or fearful of something. All right. You're actually growing. You're stepping outside of your comfort zone and getting into the area where growth happens. Okay. So I want you to think about the last time fear stopped you from something. And this all stems from a conversation I had yesterday actually with someone where they had fear about making phone calls, which is pretty much why I do this whole podcast, is because I try to help all the agents that are in similar shoes, that are afraid to make the calls, afraid to be yelled at, and that sort of thing. So I want you to think about the last time that it stopped you in your tracks, and fear was a factor where you were, maybe not following up with the lead because you didn't want to feel pushy. Maybe it was you were not going live on your socials because you were worried you'd stumble over your words. Or maybe you were not asking for the referral because you didn't want them to say no and put you in an awkward position, right? So, like I said, these are not signs that you're weak. These are signs that you are actually ready to grow. All right. So, how do we face these fears? Well, fear wears a lot of masks in real estate. So, let's call them out. We kind of just went through a little bit of it, but the what if they say no fear. So, this is the main one that I see a lot, and it's where you hesitate to follow up or pitch yourself because rejection hurts, right? And all of this actually stems from something in your past where you had an experience and now you are afraid of that happening again. So, like I said in this conversation I had with someone yesterday about them being afraid of making phone calls, it's because yeah, they get people hanging up on them, they get people that are upset, and they were focusing too much on that. So I was listening to a meditation last night, and it was actually a story meditation, which I had not done, but it was really, really cool. So it had this interesting little section in it where you're supposed to like put on different glasses and like see the world through a different lens. And I'm going to read this quote, and it comes from a YouTube channel. I think it's called Soup, but I'm not sure. But so it says everything starts with intention. When shifting reality, be clear about what you wish for, but remain open to better possibilities. For our logical mind is limited to our past experiences. You exist only in the reality you believe. It is essential to know yourself well to manifest the life you desire. But overall, accept yourself for who you are. For self-love is one of the highest vibrations. So when someone loves themselves deeply, they bring forth transformational energy that contributes to the greater whole. So I thought that was really fitting because it talks about how our logical mind will limit us, right? From our past experiences, from the things that we've been through. So while I was having conversation with this person and they were telling me, a lot of things, and they had a lot of negative self-talk. And a lot of us do, and may not even realize it. And the things that they're saying, like, are typical things that we all hear a lot. We hear them at real estate events, we hear them on podcasts, we hear it from, our peers, we hear it on social media. And if we believe these things, then that's going to shape our reality, which is what it really comes down to, right? And so one of the things that I was hearing her say a lot was like, oh, the market's not very good, or, nobody wants to talk to me, or they always get mad at me, or something like that, right? So, or these are just crap leads. Okay, so these are all signs of something that happened, or something that maybe you saw happen that made you afraid that that would happen again and uncomfortable. So for me, I do this all day, every day, right? Like, I make these phone calls and have awkward conversations with people for the good conversations, because I know that they're out there, right? And sometimes when you're focused so much on the negative conversations, then that's what you end up with. So if you're afraid that they're going to say no, I personally take that as a win. If somebody says no to me, at least I got them on the phone, because 90% of people don't actually answer the phone or respond to you. So I say, if they say no, great. Now I can focus on the people who are actually ready to transact and want to talk to me. And I think that's really important, because that's part of the battle of getting to the point where you're actually ready to work with someone. So personally, you know, I know that rejection stings. I know that we can take it personally and feel like it's something to do with with us, but it isn't. It really isn't. I had a guy yesterday. I got excited in the first minute of this phone call because he said, "Yeah, I'm about to, relist my home in a month. I'm just waiting for this construction to finish." And he said he didn't have an agent, everything. And so I started like, oh, yay, I'm going to get this listing appointment for my client, and it's going to be great. And the more he talked, the less good the conversation went, which was really strange. So my approach is usually be like, hey, there's no pressure, but we, need to come take a quick look at the home, see what kind of condition it's in, and, go from there so that we can go over your options, but there's no pressure. So he did not like the fact that I said that there was no pressure, because he said, you're not woman enough to pressure me. And I was like, okay, well then, sir. And then he went in and proceeded to tell me how a good salesperson will be pushy, and that's what he respects. So I realized I could have a couple options here. I could then do what he said. But at that point, I realized that my client probably didn't want to work with this person if he's going to talk to me like that. And that was true. um, but also, I could have then been pushy and been like, okay, well, does Thursday at 3 or at 5 work for you? Like, I could have gone down that road. That has never been my thing, like, to try to manipulate anyone into anything. And I find that when you put people in those pressure situations because you want them to say yes when they're not ready, then you end up being more heartbroken when they cancel, or, cancel the contract after they got an offer on their home or something like that. Like, when they decide to back out, right? Like, I would rather be told no right up front than to be told that, no, I don't want to do this anymore after I've already got a signed listing agreement and maybe have buyers interested and they don't want to accept an offer or something like that. Okay. So that's my little spiel on that. Okay. So another fear is, what if I'm not good enough? Imposter syndrome creeps in. And even though you're qualified and capable, for some reason you buy into this. And I'm going to fix your imposter syndrome right now. This is not something that I came up with. It's a friend of mine, so I can't quote him. But he said that imposters don't feel imposter syndrome. So therefore, you are not an imposter. If you think that you are, you're not, because an imposter is not going to feel that way, because they already know that they are, like, and they're faking it, right? So don't feel like an imposter. You are qualified, you are capable. Find those things and lean into them, the ones that make you feel like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm the best person for them to work with. Which is why this conversation that I had yesterday was interesting, because she also said, I know that I'm the agent that can help them find, reach their goals and find the home that they want or whatever the case may be, right? So I'm like, there you go. That's what you need to hold on to. This is what we need to focus on, not all this fear-based stuff that's over here. But, and she agreed with me. But since we're focusing on the fear today for the purpose of turning it into something fierce, we're going to talk a little bit more about the other one, which is what will people think? This one happens a lot. Like, if you've been in real estate for any amount of time, you know that agents, we have a tendency to measure ourselves with other agents that we see at events, you know, all the, online, looking at their social media and things of that nature, right? So don't play it small because you're worried about judgment, right? I find that you will attract your tribe when you are putting out the content that resonates with them, right? And this is where you have to have the belief to lean into those things that you really know are your strengths. Okay. So if your strength is not making phone calls, though, and you want to improve that, then there's only one way to do that, and that's to make phone calls. All right. So anytime that you start anything new, you're only going to be the very worst at it the first time you do it. And then you need to become consistent with it so that you become competent, so that you become confident. So this is my new favorite analogy for people because it's true. And most agents will not even do the consistent things to become competent, to become confident, right? So if you are confident in something already, lean into that. Okay, so the next one is my fear. What if I succeed? Yeah, even success can scare us, right? Like it means more responsibility, more pressure, and sometimes more visibility. And what does that mean for my, personal life? And how will that impact me? And, you know, am I going to have time to do the things I want to do, right? None of these fears are unique to me or to you, and none of them actually make it so you can run your business better, right? Like none of them are getting to run your business anymore. Okay, so how does fear disguise itself? Let's talk about what fear pretends to be. Okay, this is an interesting part of this because a lot of people don't realize that procrastinating is not fear. Over researching is not fear. Fixing your brand again, redoing your website for the ninth time, avoiding your CRM like it's haunted. These things aren't laziness, they're actually self-protection, okay? But you don't need to be protected anymore. You need to be activated, you need to grow, and you need to embrace it. And this is how you do it. You move one thing at a time. As a matter of fact, my son passed the driver's test yesterday. He's getting his license. And before the night before this, he spiraled and he was going through like all of these scenarios and like overwhelmed with what could happen and being afraid of these things. And I was like, one step at a time, just focus on backing around a corner, right? We just need to nail that. And then once we figure out how to do that, then we're going to nail parallel parking, which he totally did it just fine out here. So, I mean, one thing at a time. So focus on one thing at a time. And then if you can, do the scary thing even before you feel ready. Like try to do the scary thing um, first. Get it out of the way. Because if you leave the biggest, scariest thing for last, usually that is going to the thing that you are dreading. And so you'll go slower on all of the other things that you're doing, if that makes sense. Right. So, post a video, even if your voice shakes, right? Like, even if you're nervous, make a call, even if your palms are sweaty. Show up anyway, show up for yourself, be consistent so you can become competent, so you can become confident, so that people will reach out to you. And that is what this is all about. So, hopefully, these are helpful scenarios. And I think that it would also be helpful if you guys did a little homework, a little challenge, which is write down one fear that is actually slowing you down. Okay. Write down a fear that is holding you back, and then choose a tiny action that moves you through the fear. Are you scared to go live? Record a 60-second story. Are you scared to go live because you don't like the way you look? There's other ways to do that. You can use a filter, right? You put on makeup. You could do all sorts of things. Okay. Are you afraid to ask for business? Just send one follow-up message. Are you worried about what people will think? Post it anyway. And so I'll share another story, which this is something that I did yesterday. And I was I saw this post going around about the 20 things you may not know about eXp Realty, which is my brokerage. And I thought it was a really awesome post. And I don't normally post stuff like this because I know this stigma that's out there and like people don't want to be EXP'd on and all that stuff. And I did that in the beginning of my career when I first started. And so I saw this post going around. I thought, that's really cool. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to post it when I probably normally wouldn't have. And that actually led to a really great conversation with someone. And things, weren't as scary as I thought they were, right? So one tiny action can lead you to where you want to be and bring you to your goals. So don't let things hold you back. Don't be afraid of anything that you've been putting off, because honestly, if you keep holding on to the fear, that's where you're going to stay. You're not going to grow. Your business isn't going to grow. And we all have things like this that have impacted us. I've done it myself with so many things, but I'll share another story since we have time, and this one a little faster than I thought. And the one time I said it's not going to take a whole 30 minutes, and then I feel like I've already almost finished this. But anyways, I hired someone a while ago, and look, back when I started my business in 2022, the market was booming, okay? And I started the inside sales agency, and we grew really, really fast to a bigger team than I thought in just a few months, with a lot of clients and a lot of people interested as well. And so I hired a bunch of people, and then the market kind of took a turn. And then going through the hiring and firing process really impacted me, because it sucks when you put all this time and effort and energy into someone and you train them and you are like, oh yeah, they're so good. And then they don't choose it for themselves, or they don't show up for themselves. And then you have to fire them. And that sucks because you see the potential, but they don't, and you can't control that. So I've gone through like back and forth, like, okay, do I want to like get to that level again and grow and higher and, take over the world like I originally thought I would do with this business that is pretty unique in the United States as an ISA company and not overseas and led by somebody who's licensed and all of that. And it's hard because like that means that I have to go through that process. I have to walk through that fear of hiring people and them being a not great fit, and then having to let them go, or they quit on me or something like that. And it's holding me in one spot, because once I get through it, and then I run into it again. And I feel like the only way that I've actually overcome this recently is that I realized that the last experience I had, was probably the worst one that I had, it was really a huge teaching moment. And at first I was like, how did my intuition not tell me that something was off about this person? How did I not see it? That's what was holding me back. Is like, I have really good intuition. How did this person fool me? How did I think that they were going to be this or that? And then they turned out to be complete opposite. And how did it last so long? Right. Like, so that was holding me back, because now I'm like scared to hire anyone, because I feel like I don't have that gut knowing what's right and what's wrong. But when I like look at it objectively, it's like, okay, maybe that actually was all meant to happen. And my gut was telling me still to hire her. And it could have gone maybe different ways if things, maybe there were two different paths. But regardless, the path that it took was not a good one. But was it still good for me and my business? Absolutely. You want to know why? Because I learned. I learned a lot of things in that experience. I learned I can't share as much as I want to. I share things a lot of the time that in a way to show someone, hey, look, I went through this. And I'm like, hey, look at my life. You can do it too. If you think you're stuck, well, look what I did, right? And I was doing that out of like nurturing, mentoring, caring about someone, but they were looking at it with jealous eyes. And they're like, why does she get that? Why, why can't I have? Instead of doing the work to get it, they just wanted it, right? Like, and they didn't want to do the work to get it, but it wasn't helpful for me to show them the beauty of my life in that way. It was more personal. Instead, it should just be about the business and like, let's focus on the business, let's grow the business, and let's not be friends, which I made that clear in the beginning, but regardless, things happen. So now, 9 months later, honestly, 9 months later, went into a little cocoon, was a little bit like, hey, maybe I'm just going to hang in here myself and just work really hard for the clients I have and keep the team that I have, which I don't, have a very large team right now, and just focus on me and do me, right? But that's not why I built this business, because it's not just meant to be me. If it's just me, then it's not the inside sales agency. It's just their Delansig. And that's not taking over the industry and changing the narrative about follow-up, which is the reason I got into this, is to try to get rid of the salesy, crappy ick feeling and the ick vibe that we give when we're making these follow-up calls, which is why most of my stuff is about follow-up. I mean, that's my life. And to give you guys examples of the guy yesterday where, you know what, it's okay for me to say no. That's not a good fit. And I don't think my client would be comfortable in that situation. And funny story is that she said she almost didn't even drop off that packet at his house because she got a weird vibe from him and she remembered who it was. And so she was like, no, I totally trust that was the right call for you not push him when he wanted to be pushed into an appointment. I didn't want to push him into an appointment because I don't think my client would enjoy working with him. There's nothing wrong with that. We just have to, learn what's best for us. And sometimes I get like, oh, shoot, should I be doing it that way? Because I'll listen to things about other ISAs and other ISA companies and other people that do follow up. And they're like, oh, I don't take no for an answer. Or, oh, if they say this, I say that to try to swing it this way. And like they have all these tactics. And my tactic is simple. I have conviction in what I do. And you should too. If you have conviction in what you do, then you don't need to be desperate and you don't come from a desperate place. And then you are able to just have a conversation and help people and see them where they are, not as a sale or anything like that. So I think that's all I have. Let me see. I think that's all I have. But to recap, all right, courage is a muscle. You got to build it by using it. Okay. It's just like exercise. It's just like any of the things that become confident in. Consistency is key. You don't need to wait to become, you don't need to wait until you have no fear to do something to become successful at it, right? There's still little pieces of me that are like, not in it sometimes, like that will be afraid of how somebody's going to react to something. Push through it. Know that it's not about you. And then, yeah, let's just see. The last thing that I think we had is write down your fear. Yeah, write down one fear that's slowing you down. Choose a tiny action, move toward it, do whatever it takes. And then let me know. Let me know if you did it, all right? Because the agent that you're meant to be is already inside of you. It's just waiting to show up with a little bit more fire. Okay. So until next time, you guys, this is Sara Delansig. Go out there, keep it real, keep it real estate. Okay, bye.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.